Good morning. I'm not sure if y'all can hear me. Is anyone out there in TV land? I'm in a different place than usual. I am not in my office. So, and I've got my earbuds on, and it sounds very strange because noise cancellation. Well, it says it's off, but hmm, who knows? Can you all hear me? Um, anyhow, I've got my coffee. Hopefully you have your coffee. Good morning, Jill. Jill, can you hear me? Someone tell me if they can hear me. I think you can hear me. I think so. Test one, two. It says it's showing. So great. Ice water. Did you just put the water on the porch and let it freeze? It's been cold. 30 degrees outside right now. It's been lovely. Okay. So I'm not in my office because they are putting a window in my door so I can have closed door meetings, but it not be all by myself or be entirely private. Um, so yeah, so that's why I'm in the room formerly known as the cry room, and it's so lovely. But it also means I don't have access to all my normal stuff. So um, Jill had actually, before we jump in, the only announcement I could think of was the baby bottle campaign. So hopefully you grab them. Hopefully you've started to fill them up and bring them back. If you have not, please plan to do that. Hope you will contribute to the cause of life with the contributions to the baby ball campaign. And that's the only announcement I can think of. Oh, hello, the big game party. You should plan to come and celebrate and cheer for the Eagles, not that Patrick Mahomes fellow, or the Chiefs Swizzle fans, or the Chiefs who somehow have convinced the refs to help them. Um, yeah, uh, I I don't have a dislike for the Eagles. I don't care about the Eagles. I'm tired of Patrick Mahomes, and I'm tired of the refs seeming to sway things in the Chiefs' favors. And I don't think I'm the only one. There were some calls that were questionable during the game on Sunday. And so, anyhow, and some of you are like, ugh, football, who cares? Well, you should still come because you could watch commercials, or you should still come because there will be other people here and you can hang out with them, and there will be tasty food. And you should still come because there's going to be other games. It's going to be a great time. There's going to be lots of games and fun. I'm going to bring my giant Connect Four. Shannon's going to bring other games and stuff. It'll be a good time. So plan to come on the afternoon of February 9th for that and have a good time with the whole crew. So that's the only other announcement I could think of. Um, but let's jump in. Jill had asked and requested maybe we consider going through the minor prophets. And my initial response to that is I don't want to do that because that's a lot of work. The minor prophets is more work of each time setting up the context and whatnot of each book. And frankly, the minor prophets are a little confusing at times. And then the Lord was like, John, why do you want to do something? Because it's more work. So we are going to do that, but I really want to make sure that I've prepared myself well for it. When we've gone through books of the New Testament, arguably I've spent more time in books of the New Testament, so it's a little bit easier and they're a little bit longer, and so we can have some time to prepare. We just prepare once and then we go through. And so, in light of that, I want to do the minor prophets, but it'll be a little bit before we do that. So until we get there, though, I think I'm going to spend some time just uh, maybe a couple weeks and just share if the Lord has been impressing me, like what He's been teaching me, share with you guys. And then if there's something that comes up in a sermon or in my study for a sermon where it makes sense to share with you that something I find interesting or kind of fascinating or whatever, just the stuff that gets left on the cutting room floor. What's the stuff that wouldn't doesn't make sense to put in the sermon, but might make sense to share observations, random thoughts, illustrations, any of that stuff. So we will kind of freestyle it for a little bit, and then we will jump into the minor prophets. Um, and I can't really show you what I was thinking for this morning because I couldn't figure out how to do it in time without my normal desk setup. But uh, over Christmas time, we had the opportunity to uh, bless some families who were not regular attenders of the church, who were relational, who uh, kind of we tangentially knew. And one of the families that we decided to help, uh, someone I had someone take the family to Fred Meyer, I think it was, and they used some of the gift basket money that we had collected at Thanksgiving times for the baskets. And uh, the person who took them asked me, "Well, do they come to the church?" And I said, "No." And she was like, "Okay, do you think they'll ever come to the church?" I was like, "Well, I don't know." And here's what I understand the question because it's the question that I ask in my own heart, feels and is pulled towards. And it's okay, we're going to help this person, but what are we going to get in return? Maybe not explicitly, but kind of the heart behind that is like, hey, we want to help people that are going to be part of our church, which we should help people that are going to be a part of our church. But something that the Lord has impressed upon me in in giving and uh, helping others is to be willing to do so even when someone isn't going to pay you back, isn't going to do something in return. And really, when we think about who God is and what God is like, that's what God does. God helps us, He provides for us, He does things for us, even though we're never going to be able to do anything in return, so to speak. We can give Him honor and glory, but really, God God doesn't need anything from us. He's totally self-sufficient. He is totally uh, capable of accomplishing everything on his own. So he doesn't need any of that stuff, but he wants us to be like him. And this a verse as I was after I had this conversation, and I fully admitted like this is my own natural tendency too. Like I want to help people that are going to come to our church because I want to help people that are going to be a part of our church. And the Lord kind of gently pushed in on me and said, John, if I treated everyone that way, um, one, no one would probably get any help. But he impressed upon me that's not how I treat people. Think of what if you think of what Jesus says is uh, like God causes the rain to fall on the just and the wicked. He causes the sun to shine on the just and the wicked. God does good things to even those who hate him. And it's like, oh man, that's a that's contrary to my flesh. My flesh wants to help those who I'm going to get something in return from. But that's not what Jesus calls us to. Think of all the people that Jesus fed when he fed the 5,000 or the 4,000. That's 15,000 or 12,000 people, depending on numbers, because that's just the men. Jesus fed all those people. And how many people were there in the upper room in Acts chapter 1? 120. Jesus healed a lot of people in his ministry, and many of them didn't follow him. I think of the story of the 10 lepers that he heals, and only one of them comes back to thank him, and I think it's a Samaritan, and the rest were Jews. It's like, oh, God, uh, God helps those that he's not going to get anything in return from. And this verse I was just reading this week, and so that's why it's on my mind in Luke chapter 14, because newsflash, I'm a little behind on my Bible plan reading. Um, so if you're in the midst of reading that through the book plan and you're a little bit behind, that's okay. You have weeks you can catch up. So just try to keep up and use those Saturdays and Sundays or whatever your off days are to make up when you're behind. Anyhow, this is what Jesus says in Luke chapter 14. He said all also to the man who had invited him, when you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. So it's this fascinating thing, like Jesus saying, hey, literally do good to those, invite those to the feast that can't do anything for you in return. Now you'll be paid back for it, but it's not going to be in now. It's going to be in the new heavens and the new earth. Like when the resurrection happens, you will be repaid for these things. And so uh, the Lord has just been quietly impressing upon me that I need to reshape or reframe my ideas of when and how and why we give. And how we need to be willing to do good to those that we're never going to get anything in return from. Now, we can't help everyone, and we need to be wise about who we help. We don't want to enable because sometimes helping people can actually enable them um, to sin more, and we don't want to do that. But uh, if we're able to help, we should at times uh, help those, even if we're not help people that we're not going to get anything in return from, and that's okay because God ultimately anything that comes back to us is going to be coming back from God. So we can trust God to repay us in the midst of that. And that's really, I mean, really interesting when you look at verse 14 and it says, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. So we um we need to keep our minds on eternity and those things in the midst of it. And that's actually part of what our passage for this Sunday looks at. We're going to be in First John 2:12 to 17, and John exhorts the believers to remember that the world is passing away. We need to keep our eyes on eternity and press on towards that place and that thing. So that's just something the Lord has been teaching me, and so I just wanted to share it. Yeah, that's all I got for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Yeah. Anyone got any questions? Any thoughts? It feels very strange. I've only been going for all of 12 minutes instead of the normal 20. All right. I hope you've been enjoying your Bible reading if you've been using that plan, and I hope you will uh, pressing on towards the prize and allow the word to work in you. All right, friends. I will see you on Sunday.